Hey everybody, I'm Michael Monaco.
And I'm Bobby Salveson, and we are the Hazmat Guys, bringing you the knowledge and insight to make your job a little bit easier and safer. But before today's show, let's listen to our sponsors. From traditional headsets to in-ear communications, Cavcon offers rugged and reliable choices for any communication challenge and any harsh environment. Cavcon's award-winning Talk Through Your Ears technology is specifically designed for clear and consistent in-suit communications. Whether you're working from a quiet control room or responding to an incident in a full level A, Cavcom has the comm system that's right for you. Any suit, any respirator, any radio, any environment. Check them out at cavcominc.com, that's CAVCOMINC.com, or give them a call at 866-547-4988. Hey everybody, we have a great episode coming up today, but before we start the show, we want to share some exciting news from the Hazmat Guys. As some of you may know, we have been working on a hazmat drill book for quite some time, and we're pleased to announce that it is finally available on Amazon. This book was written by contributors from the hazmat community based all around the United States, and we think it will provide a ton of value for both you and your department. The title of the book is The National Emergency Response Hazmat Drills, 50 Drills to Improve Your Team, better known as NERD. No, this was not a mistake. Anyway, the goal of the book has been to help the hazmat community, and we hope that you'll take a moment to check it out and share it. We have the link in the show notes, and if you have a moment, please leave us a positive review in Amazon. We'd be very grateful. We wanted to get NERD on the bestseller list and give more exposure to our community. Again, the book is called National Emergency Response Hazmat Drills, 50 Drills to Improve Your Team, and there's both a paperback and Kindle version available. Thank you, everybody.
Now let's get into the show.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Hazmat Guys. This is episode 171, and today we're going to have a little bit of an explosive conversation with somebody.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. We're actually all three of us are in remote conditions, not on our normal setups, but that doesn't stop us. We're still putting out the info. So, just a real quick wrap up before we get right on and bring our friend out here. We're going to be very soon in Wisconsin. For the state conference there, and also it looks like New York State's coming up, and the Midwest I think is the next three that are coming up. So looking forward to seeing all the peeps out there.
Yep, and if you have any questions about any of these shows that we're going to be at, feel free to reach out to us. We'll get you connected with the people who can answer your questions.
Yeah. So without any further ado, who do you think we should be bringing on?
Well, like all interesting things that seem to happen in this country, Florida leads the pack of interesting runs that they have. So today we have Mike Blosky, who is down in Florida, and he's going to run us through a hot wash of a explosive run that they had. So welcome on board, Mikey.
Hey, thanks guys for having me.
No problem, man.
Thanks for coming on.
Isn't it always the strange calls come out of Florida? That's kind of the theme of everything.
There's so many times I'll be watching the news and something crazy will happen. You know, like somebody eats the flesh off somebody else on the street, and it's like, oh, Florida. Actually, very nice.
Actually, the local radio station does a news format every morning, and they ask the listeners to guess whether the crime was committed in Florida or not. And I rolled down here.
It's phenomenal. So give us some background on you and where you're coming from.
Well, I work for Southern Manatee Fire Rescue District, and we provide hazardous materials response to Manatee County, Florida, which borders the southern edge of the Tampa Bay region. We actually have a part of the Skyway Bridge that leads over to St. Pete and Tampa. And we're also a regional team belonging to Regional Security Domestic Task Force number 6 out of Southwest Florida. So we pretty much go where we're called to go in terms of hazmat response.
Very nice.
The team has been around for 20 years, but around 2014, our fire chief stepped up and said, we needed to add this service out there because there wasn't really a reliant service that could provide hazardous materials response and mitigation to anywhere in our county. So he basically took it on. And about 2 years ago, I was I left the engine, which is a tear in my eye, schedule shock to everybody in my family because I enjoyed it. And I was put on as a hazmat captain to administer hazardous materials duties along with another person in my department. So that's kind of where we're at. We've been having fun. It's a busy life.
Wow. So
Sounds
the story that that we alluded to, I'm kind of curious about this because this is, in my opinion, unique.
Yeah, it is actually unique. And here's the thing about it is we in Florida, we're close to a lot of military activity. And it's not unusual for something strange to watch up on the beach every now and then. Just like in the past 2 years, we've had a couple of military signal flares that have popped up on our shoreline that we've gone out and work really good with MacDill Air Force Base and the Air Force EOD team, and they come and pick it up and take it away. But this was kind of a unique challenge on Saturday night. This incident happened on February 9th. So it was a unique challenge in that sometimes you get on these hazmat events and you don't get all the information, and then the information comes as like a wheelbarrow load, and all of a sudden you're trying to make some decisions in there to kind of figure out the best course of action. So
Yeah.
I guess I'll just go right into the story. So this gentleman lives out on one of our coastal islands in a very secluded part of our county. He's surrounded by inland waterways and little bays and stuff like that. And he goes out fishing quite frequently and passes by a set of mangroves or a marsh-like area. And he has been spotting this 7-foot PVC tube hanging in the trees for about the last 2 years. So he gets the theory of DeSoto's gold or pirate's treasure, and he retrieves this object, which we kind of equated would probably be around 50 pounds, and he's towing it back by his canoe to his house. And he sits there and ponders with it, and he noticed the writing on it. It's a 4-inch tube, 7 foot long, and it's capped at both ends with PVC glue. And then on one of the ends, it says, "Open here." So I guess he tries to open that section of it and then has some difficulty. And then he ponders for a little bit, and he decides that he's just going to fire up his old Husqvarna chainsaw, and he's just going to whack the end off of it.
no.
Okay.
So once he whacks it off, he empties the contents. Now, what the contents were was a newspaper, I guess, used for wadding, dated about October 1976. And then inside were 5 hard-wrapped cylinders in wax paper. And the best thing I can describe for everybody listening is it almost looked like a salami roll, like a hard salami roll you'd buy at an Italian deli. There were 5 individuals of those inside of that, and those were wrapped in sort of like our yellow matting or hazmat pad matting that you'd find in like spill pads and stuff like that, almost like a very thick downy paper towel. So he dumps those all into the table, on his gardening table on his back porch. And then curiosity gets the best of him again, so he takes one of the 5 and he opens it up with a knife. And inside that was a consistency, a substance. It was a solid crystalline substance that looked almost like brown sugar and white crystals intermixed with a kind of unusual odor, I guess, that was coming out of it. So at that point, this is all third party. This is what the local sheriff's department told me, was that he called the sheriff's department, and a road deputy went over there and goes, "Well, I don't know what that is. So I'm going to call somebody that kind of does." So he calls out some field experts in those type of solid substances, and they go out there and they test it, and it tested positive presumptively for what they called cocaine. So right now we're looking at probably about 40 pounds of cocaine. So here's how we get the dispatch. The local department, which was North River Fire District, that controls that area. You understand in Manatee County, there's 9 independent fire departments. So the fire department that's in control of that area, they alerted an engine out for and said it was a hazardous materials response, and that MSO was on scene with 5 possible patients. And the local law enforcement suspected that it was up to 40 pounds of cocaine that was found in a white PVC tube. Now,
Wow, I bet you that guy at that point was extraordinarily disappointed that he called in the police. Because, yes, he had pirate's treasure. He didn't even know it.
yeah, he expected pieces of eight to fall out of that thing, but instead it was completely different. But I can't tell you that's far from, a believable story, because there's some strange things, again, that wash up on Florida beaches. And that hypothesis, that theory that you have responding is, you think somebody in an airplane was flying over the Gulf of Mexico, radioed his buddy, kicked this PVC pipe out, and it's all filled with drugs for them to pick up. All right. That's
It happens.
that's a theory. So we responded out there, and I immediately touched base with the law enforcement supervisor that was out there, and he explained the story again. And then he goes, "Yeah, I've got the civilian homeowner that is complaining of headaches, severe headaches right now." And he said he just basically, picked up this solid powder and was, messing with it in his hands. And then the two other deputies who examined it were also complaining of severe headaches.
Uh-oh.
So at that point, it's like, okay. I said, best course of action is let's get you some decon. So, and they were like, well, we don't need decon. It's probably, something mild inside of there. I said, well, the best option is just let's go wash your hands right now over by the fire engine. So we gave them some decon, and we gave them some baby wipes to wipe down with. And they were like, okay, we're okay now. The headaches kind of subsided. So I said, all right, the next course of action is we're going to try to go figure out what this is. So, with what we had, we think it's cocaine. I decided upon that, we'll probably be doing a kind of a level B entry inside of there. So me and another tech dressed up, and we grabbed all of our instrumentation and started to make entry over there and located where the stuff was. And by the way, this is now at dark in the Florida wilderness. There's hardly no light except for like a 60-watt light bulb on the back porch of this house. So to balance a flashlight and balance meters at the same time is always a challenge. So we end up, running a paper test on it. We didn't find any pH, and we had a little bit of water come back on water finding paper. Like, it was not completely saturated, but there was some humidity, I guess, inside of the bag or the hard salami roll. And then then I rubbed KI paper, and I just stuck a piece of KI paper, and it started to turn black. And
Which would be an indication for?
I'm sorry?
Which would be an indication for what?
KI paper for potassium, explosive paper.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
So it started to turn spot black, where in parts of it, some of it actually turned black, some of it started to indicate, that's kind of like a nitrogen-based, potassium-based KI product. So then I said, okay, well, we're going to grab a sample, and we shot it with the FTIR and Raman. And the first thing, we're using Smith's Detection Hazmat ID Elite. And the first thing it flashed up was sodium arsenate. And
sodium arsenate. Wow.
Yeah, I lean towards the, it definitely flashed poison toxics. For those that are familiar with Smith's Detection, that's like the first alert that comes out. It looks at those what we call the 36 bad guys that's in the library and compares it.
Right.
And it flashes up and it said sodium arsenate. So I'm like, okay, I'm thinking rat poison, some type of filler material for if it was. But now I start leaning towards the explosive side because of that KI paper. And I push the buttons and make it do what it's supposed to do. And it comes back and says, I had an 80% composition of nitroglycerin.
Now it's starting to come together. Okay.
Which would make sense with the headaches.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now and then the filler materials that are on top of that was now it's saying that there's a 10% chance of ammonium nitrate, and adding it all up together to be 100%. It said like the rest of the balance was composed of black gunpowder.
So, Mike, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding you right. So, you ran it initially on your meter, and you got back that, what is this, sodium arsenate?
Yes.
Okay. Then you ran it again. Is that what happened? Like, you just said, all right, I'm going to run this thing again. Was that what you did?
No, on the Elite, from Smith's detection, it will
Yeah.
focus on a group of chemicals, like anthrax or most of your bioagents or CWA agents as a solid or liquid detector. And it ran through that first set of hits, and it came back flashing sodium arsenate. And then I told it to take a deeper look at it and run it through its actual library. And I'm not promoting Smith's detection at all. It's just what we have. But then it runs through about 3,600 chemicals that are in its library there.
Okay, now I understand. Because that, some like if that I'm a big fan of that. If it doesn't look like a dog and doesn't bark like a dog, run it again and again and again, because you'll be surprised. You get 3 different answers. One of them will fit.
Absolutely, and it's kind of like the 3 tiers of that device. So it flashed sodium arsenate, and then when I asked it to go through the 3,200 chemicals that it has on board, it said it started breaking it down more. And the first thing I got out of it was the nitroglycerin that came back.
Mhm. Yeah.
And the nitro, it said it was 17% nitroglycerin and 39% rifle powder, and then 23% methanol. And at the same time, I go back and I hit it with a PID meter, and now I'm getting readings of 5.4 on the PID. All the other levels were the same, but the PID is starting to indicate, that volatile organic compound coming out of there. So I said, okay, well, let's just gather up another representative sample. I took some photographs of the area real quick, and then I basically said, we're just going to back out and let me make a phone call over to Bomb Squad.
Yeah, I was going to say, because when we start considering old things with nitroglycerin in it, that nitroglycerin starts to become extraordinarily unstable over time, correct?
Yes, and the first thing that flashed into my mind, which is kind of the weirdest way, but that's, I think, how us hazmat guys thinks. I go back to that episode in the 70s of Little House on the Prairie with Laura Ingalls, and they're trying to get the dynamite down the mountain.
Yes, I remember that.
And it's shaking in the back of the wagon. So as that runs through my mind, which is ultimately weird, I gotta admit, but that was the first thing I thought about. About moving it and the friction associated with it. And as we start to look at it and start to take better photographs of what's going on, I noticed that all four of the salami rolls are now sweating at this point.
Oh yeah.
And now you have that oil-based liquid on the outside of the wrapping paper. So I take
kind of coming through.
Yeah, it's sweating through the wax paper now. So I take some KI paper and I rub across it, and it ended up turning black too. So that kind of like put us on high alert at that point.
All right. So I have a couple of just questions. And again, I am not a big fan of Monday morning quarterbacking, but you guys made an entry in a level B.
Yes.
What was your reasoning for that? Like, were you seeing something? Was it something feeling like your spidey sense was tingling? Why would you go B and not like fire turnouts with SCBA? What was your thought process in that?
Well, it was kind of like we get in that mindset that's, they said cocaine, and now all of a sudden you go back to, the CDC's thinking of, well, cocaine doesn't really look brown sugar. And then you're going to go, well, maybe it's heroin.
It's heroin, right?
Heroin, with a possible fentanyl mixture inside of it. And now we're talking, over 25 pounds of it in one spot. And you're thinking, well, yeah, maybe you're going, there's a chance for it to go airborne. I didn't feel like a flammability risk based upon just wearing structural firefighting gear, which is a very good call. We could always, in retrospect, look at that we probably could have maneuvered a lot easier in structure fire gear around that product. But then it was like, well, the possibilities of, if this stuff does go airborne, or, just to get my eyes on it, what exactly do I got? So going level B, I was like, all right, well, that seems to be, we're probably dealing with a lab quantity of it, if it is positive. Yes. So respiratory protection and long-term thinking of decon coming out of there was like one of my primary concerns.
Did you guys? Did you choose the B after? Did you choose the B after you found out that there were 3 patients that experienced headaches after touching this? I'm just wondering
Yeah, the signs and symptoms were a main driver.
Okay.
The secondary was, and I had discussed this with my hazmat crews on the way there and stuff like that. I kind of set up in my mind that this was probably leaning towards a B level entry, and unless something else weird popped up that we needed to go into that unknown, there was always that possibility of, well, we could wear level A's, but one of the factors that I get was just arriving at the scene, and we had North River Fire District, great, read their ERG. The officer immediately came up to me and said, "Hey, man, we're treating this as a 111 out of the ERG guide, just like you guys have taught us in the past." And he goes, "We've kind of secluded the house, and the house itself probably sat, probably 150 yards off the main road. So, in terms of creating a zone, they've already done that for me." And then you go back there, and it's kind of like you see the local law enforcement guys. They were kind of scratching their head and going, "Oh, it's definitely cocaine. It's, our field tests did it for cocaine." Well, the other side of that too, which is a good discussion, is presumptive field testing. Those things are flammable.
Yes.
You've heard us talk about First Line Technologies' Dahlgren Decon solution and the FiberTech wipes and mitts. They've just come out with Enhanced Decon Systems Kit, which contains everything you need to quickly decontaminate 6 to 24 operators and all their gear in one fully equipped grab-it-and-go bagged. This kit has been hazmat team tested and approved, and it's the only full-team modified decon kit with the power of Dahlgren Decon and FiberTech wipes to counter hundreds of known and emerging threats. The EDS kit is perfect for incidents where a small footprint, low logistics decontamination SOP is appropriate. Are you operating in a harsh environment? No problem. Whether it's minus 10 or 104 degrees F, Dahlgren Decon will maintain its effectiveness and can be easily applied to neutralize threats. The kit is stable in temperatures from minus 40 to 160 degrees F if you carry the RSDL with you. If you use all the consumables in the kit, unlike other rapid deployment kits, you do not need to buy a complete kit to resupply. Just purchase one of the First Line EDS replenishment packs and order just the elements you need. When ounces count and the clock is ticking, grab the EDS kit and go. Call the guys at First Line Technology for more information or a quote at 703-955-7510 or email them at sales@firstlinetech.com.
You kind of look at it, decision making. Those guys are talking to me, and at that point, they're denying, medical treatment. They're like almost in a sense just kind of laughing the situation off a little bit.
But even so, there's been a ton of luck involved in this. First off, this guy has been driving by for 2 years. He tows it on his boat. Now that we've established it's pretty much an explosive, he takes a chainsaw to it. You guys monitored it with a laser that potentially could ignite this stuff. Like, there's been so much luck. It's like great to talk to you. We're still talking.
Yeah. Going back to it is, I did shoot it first with the ramen, and we used the Elite. And by the way, I'm not pushing Smith's products on that, but one of the things they sold us on was like it was very good on explosives. So we have a kind of a policy that we always kind of first hit it with the ramen and kind of rule out that explosive. And even the ramen on that kind of hinted to like something that was in the high 1500 megahertz range. That was like, okay, it's either narcotics, right? Because that's what's
Right.
going out the lower end of that spectrum, or it's explosives. So, I didn't pick up on the ramen telling me that it was more leaning. I picked up on the ramen telling me it was more drugs than it was explosives, which is lessons learned. It's just lessons to all of us is that, we got to, we go back and your meters don't care if you live or die. They just tell you what they're going to tell you.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I always try to teach people in the class that and I think you're kind of alluding to this idea that you should, every time you take a step forward and you have information, you want to always try to prove that information wrong, right? In science, we never try to prove information right. We try to prove it wrong. What factors are sitting around me that negate what I already know?
well, right,
And
absolutely. And I'm kind of an old school guy that I take all that information and process it into, what do you think this possibly is? And I like the theory of proving it wrong, but y'all guys did an episode on colorimetrics, a way back with the HazCat. We don't go that deep into the HazCat as we should, But I mean, I'm also an old school guy that uses a lot of paper to kind of figure out what kind of group it belongs to, rule things out than what it is, and at the end of it. And in that case of hazmat education is I could tell you, I probably can't tell you what it is, but I could tell you what it's not.
Right. That's one of the we'll say level 4 hazmat technician techniques is knowing when your meter tells you nothing what it actually is telling you.
Right. So as I'm back there looking at this stuff, and we're piecing it all together, I look at the newspaper, and the newspaper is from 1976. All right.
Right.
And he said he took it out of that tube. And I take a look at the pipe that's on the ground, and the pipe has no barnacles or marine growth on it. So for 45 years, where has this pipe been?
That's a good question.
Oh, that's a really good point. It's been in the water, or I guess maybe he said it was in the tree for 2 years before he decided to harvest it.
Right. So here's the kicker. So I call the bomb squad guys, and they respond out here, and I tell them the situation, and I tell them, hey, there's no air quality hazards back there or anything like that. It's safe to breathe. Put on a N95 mask and follow me back there and take a look at this thing that's sitting on this table. And he looks at it and he goes, okay.
That's great. The bomb squad guy's scratching his head going, all right.
And I said, from what we've tested right now, it's made of a lot of different components in there, but to me, it looks like it's a blasting agent of some sort. And he goes, okay, let me go. And we walked back out of the hot zone. And we basically sat there for a second. And then another deputy, an older deputy on the team goes, hey, wait a minute. I've got an idea. He goes, back in the 70s, they used to put charges in the mangroves in PVC tubes to basically blow up the mangroves, which is entirely environmentally desensitive now. But they used to put charges in the mangroves in order to blow up holes so they can get their boats back there, and or future development that people were building a dock by their house. They used to blow up mangroves and create channels and loosen up the bedrock that they would eventually pull out and use for like shorelines here in Florida communities, so for erosion purposes. So he goes, I bet you that's one of those pipes. And I was like, okay. Sounds like a great theory. And he goes, yeah. And he made a phone call and goes, yeah, you know what that, he goes, I bet you that is. So naturally, as we put our hazmat Scooby-Doo skills to the work, we run the markings on the pipe. And the actual PVC pipe that it was in was only made from 1970 to 1980 by one company. So
wow.
How
did you? Just real quick, what markings were on the pipe, and how did you end up researching that information?
Oh, it's the old hazmat question that's always on scene. Like if you don't know what's going on, and you get that strange chemical, it's always called GTS. Google that shit.
It's absolutely
great Google.
So we brought up Google and we put the pipe manufacturer in there and started reading the bio on the company, and they had switched names several times, but the name that was on the pipe was the name that they used between 1970 and 1980.
Okay.
This is great. This is you know what, there's a lot of takeaways in this, and if people put this as a tabletop, because I feel that this story has taken pauses for discussion, and it can be built.
And this same situation happened to us 6 months ago. We had a commercial delivery truck, one of the nationwide commercial overnight delivery trucks, had a package that leaked out in the back of it. And there were two mixtures in there for pool work. There was shock and there was muriatic acid inside of that. And both were commercial labels on them, but the labels had faded away because of the vapors that were inside of the back of the truck. I mean, they ate the package labeling away. The only thing left was like the UTC code that they scan at, Sam's, Costco, or Walmart. And one of the research guys in the truck was like, hey, let me go run that UTC code and see what the actual name of it comes up with. And it led him directly to an SDS sheet. for that. So, you know,
It's
that's kind of the background skills that we all need in hazmat work.
absolutely. It's those small, little, minute details that everybody else overlooks that really allow us to move forward.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
so now we have a clue and a theory. So at that point I said this is more of a bomb squad thing than this, and we'll provide all the support you need to make this happen. So we basically turned it over to bomb squad, and they went in there and we talked about the action plan that they wanted to do. And he basically said, yeah, we're going to bring the bomb trailer down here. We're going to load up the 4 remaining rolls in the bag, and we're going to saturate them with diesel fuel. And then he goes, well, diesel fuel is really going to mess up my bomb trailer right now. So I said, hey, no problem. Here's what we're going to do. We got a 35 overpack drum. We'll take the lid off. We'll slide it inside that, put some 30 mil hazmat waste bags in there, and you can set those in there, and then you can pour 2 or 3 gallons of diesel fuel to stabilize, I guess, the rolls themselves.
Right. That makes sense. And that
Yeah.
way you can keep
Yeah.
their trailer clean and burn everything in the drum.
Right. So his idea was like, well, we need to go detonate this thing somewhere. So they came up with a grand plan, which is another sideline to the story here. We go out to this abandoned field that's owned by the local law enforcement agency that's used for cattle. And once we open the gate to that field to do our blasting stuff or our detonation, when you drive through 3 or 4 trucks in the state of Florida, all the cattle think they're being fed. So now we're at 12:30 in the morning playing cowboy, trying to rustle up 80 heads of cattle to get them into one part of the field so we can keep them away. Because every time we chase them around the law enforcement trucks, they just circle around to the other side waiting for food.
Oh, God. That is funny.
So
I love it.
to be creative with that, at midnight with flashlights, we're trying to get 80 cattle in one area. So we came up with another grand plan that we would put our UAS drone up in the air and just fly it over the cattle and use it as a sheep herding dog in order to get the cattle that were moving left.
When I saw that video that you posted, I sat there going, I think there's a drone flying around that explosion. Was that the drone you guys were using?
Yeah. We regularly employ for outside activities. We try to get a UAS drone up in the air as quickly as possible. And what you see in the video is the rear lights on the drone. It's sitting about 50 feet up in the air. So it turned out to be an exciting night. I guess each charge was about 11 to 15 pounds. And basically we did a set of 4 sets of demolition or demos where they actually blew it up. Ended up creating like a 4-foot crater in the ground for each one of those charges. And the other humorous side of it too is that I did call fire dispatch to let them know what we were doing out the field, but as soon as we let the first charge out, 911 got 40 calls in a series of 2 minutes.
I imagine they would. What did the bomb squad at all go through why exploding it versus just burning it off?
Yeah,
I'm just curious.
We did talk about that, and in retrospect, me and the bomb commander talked about different options that we could do, and one of his fears was, basically being unattended for a long period of time in the middle of a remote field in Florida. And he goes, yeah, in retrospect, I probably could have put it in, like a pallet box or built some pallets up and soaked it with diesel fuel and just burn it off in a more controlled way. But yeah, I left that decision making to him on what he wanted.
I was just curious what the thought process was.
I would have done the same thing. I would have let him handle it.
We set off 45 pounds of explosives, and total. That's about 10 to 12 pounds per charge, and it was amazing to watch that kind of explosion come out of a field. Just a concussion wave hitting me, and I was a safe distance away. We were over 500 yards away, but it was pretty amazing to watch that concussion come towards you.
Oh my God, I love it. This is a great story.
How from a command point of view, how was your command set up? You guys originally got there. The PD was in charge when you were there. Did you guys take over scene and then hand it back, or was there kind of a unified command the entire time?
Yeah, I could say it was a unified command. The highest ranking law enforcement guy I had out there was a shift supervisor lieutenant, and I basically, as any hazmat call, you try to assemble everybody in one spot to kind of talk about what the theory is behind the call. So I basically said, "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?" And then I pulled the battalion of the North River Fire District over there, and we just kind of just reviewed the case or the incident for 4 or 5 minutes to make sure that we all were on the same information page. So we immediately knew, again, with the presence of law enforcement being on scene, we knew to include them right away. And basically, from the fire standpoint, that we worked with that district several times, and we've kind of, I guess, gone out and responded several times to them. And he's like, "This is all yours." He goes, "We've gone as far as we did and got the people out and isolated the zone." So they kind of trust us to kind of take the next decision making role and
Okay.
figure out what happened.
All right. Looking back on this run, do you feel that there was anything that you could have improved on, done differently, or do you feel like, wow, everything went relatively smooth and the training kicked in when it was supposed to kick in? Like, as far as criticism and feedback of yourself and your guys, what would you kind of put in that?
Yeah. There are some lessons learned, and the first one that I always go back to is just slow down. Um, if it was cocaine, it wasn't going anywhere. If it was cocaine, we could formulate a plan to get rid of it through, the local law enforcement. But it was just like, slow down operations a little bit. And I was, we were going through. We have the. I love your podcast on the jump kit. Matter of fact, we stole it from you when we were up at FDNY Hazmat One almost 4 years ago. I saw it in your truck and I was like, man, that is the greatest thing ever. It's a little bitty go kit of everything you need for, the first 15 minutes in a call. So it was prepping that jump kit up for a little bit more action, I guess. And
Yeah.
then, I tell you, you know, you got basically a 5 gallon empty 5 gallon bucket is like the best thing that you could take in on a hazmat scene because you just never know what you're going to throw in the bucket. How big those meters are in terms of your diagnostic meters. You got to have somebody like holding them. So I always turn to like a 5 gallon bucket. I put the meters in just so we can carry them into the scene, and creating a workspace that we can run samples real quick, and then those are the things I always lead back to. Slow it down and really think about what you're going to set up for your workspace inside the hot zone to kind of figure out what you're going to do.
I love it.
Very nice.
I think this is great, Mike. Where I don't know if you are able to send us some pictures and stuff that we'd like to put it on the along with this, posting. But if people have questions, where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm available by email. My email address is M as in Mary, Bloski, the @ symbol, and then it's smfr.com, and that's Sam Mary Frank Romeo.com. Send me an email. Even if you want to call me, I'll tell you what, send me an email and I'll send you my cell phone number if you want to talk directly with me.
That'd be great.
All right. Sounds good. I would like to definitely give special thanks to your fire department that allowed you to talk about this. It is rare in this day and age, with everyone being so afraid of social media and things like that, that your guys, your uppers understood the value of sharing this story, and that's greatly appreciated. So
Yeah.
special thank you to Southern Manatee for that.
Yeah, and definitely I'd like to thank my administration. They're really supportive of our hazmat response to the county and regionally. They're very proactive about supporting the program inside the operations division. So, and this is one of those calls that you think that you have something, and all of a sudden it takes a whole completely different 180 approach to it. And then you get all the details of like, this guy cut it open with a chainsaw.
That's the best.
You know, and we didn't even go back to, where did he actually find this? At 45 years ago, where was it? And, how did he get up in a tree? You know, and this is what you
It-
scratching your head like, this does nothing in hazmat makes sense right now. You know,
I
None
love
of
it.
it makes sense. All right, very good, Mike. Well, thank you so much.
all right, guys, thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem, Mike.
If you have a moment, please head over to iTunes and leave us a positive review. And don't forget to check out the book, National Emergency Response Hazmat Drills, or NERD, on Amazon.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Hazmat Guys.
You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and our YouTube channel at The Hazmat Guys. And take a moment to call our comment hotline at 843-628-1484 and go to www.thehazmatguys.com and sign up for the newsletter.
We seriously look forward to your feedback about any of the information provided, and we also want to hear about interesting incidents that you were a part of. So you can send us a note at feedback@thehazmatguys.com. And remember, any of the information that you share with us, if we put it on air, can always remain anonymous.
Remember, guys, don't just get on the job. Get into the job.